Hi there. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I'm Beth Weinstein. I'm going to remind you, please leave a review. It would really make a big difference to me and this podcast and to all the listeners who really need to hear these messages that are so important for these times that we're in. So, I am experiencing this last couple weeks my 2023 mastermind leaving and my 2024 mastermind starting, which, by the way, there's still time to join the new cohort of the group mastermind program. It is an amazing group of people. I am personally so excited for this particular cohort. It's a really high level group of people, all medicine people, a lot of former underground facilitators or current underground facilitators of medicine who are looking to expand their offerings, a lot of healers, some therapists, nurses, doctors. It's just an amazing group of people. I'm so excited. So, if you're interested, please check out the link here in the show notes and apply for a call with me to see if it's a great fit for you. But what I wanted to share about is the last two calls I had with the group that's leaving from last year. Um, I had them share where they were a year ago and where they are today, and to involve not just their business but all of life because there is no separation. And what's funny is, or interesting, is that while everybody did share about where they are in their business, they got clients, they put themselves out there, they got past so many fears and they did things that they never thought they would end up doing, like run workshops and share themselves and make videos and come out of the closet about their spiritual work or their medicine work. So they had these big breakthroughs in their business, but really what stirred up a lot of crying, and this is crying bittersweet tears of joy for really recognizing themselves and acknowledging where they have come over this 12 months. And also tears of happiness and tears of, this is also ending and that chapter is over. And now they're about to up level on their own. And what's fascinating is when they were sharing, I heard so many touching stories about actually two people in the group said, when I started this program, my partner and I were in a bad place. I didn't think we were going to last. And they both improved their relationships, where they said, now we are more in love than ever. And someone said, my relationship with my son is better. And the relationship with my parents is better. And I got to quit my job. And couple people got new homes. Someone built an entire retreat and healing space. It was just really touching. And I ended up really finding myself in tears as everybody shared, and then actually crying myself on our last call. Because here's the thing, in the end, it's not just about making money and helping people and doing what you love. It's really about your entire life. And I will share something that I find interesting is over these last 2 weeks of witnessing my group leaving and the new group starting, I also experienced two really close friends losing people in their lives. And one of them in particular was losing her father at a pretty early age. And it really stirred up so much in me because I was back and forth with her every day, multiple times a day, like checking in on her. And it happened so quickly. And it was just very shocking and very hard. And it brought up a lot of my own grief around losing my dad in a very similar way many years ago, which really, losing my dad in the way that I did set me off on this path of really questioning, what am I doing with my life? Now that I see how precious life is and how it could be lost at any time, even early and without warning or without much warning, this portal of going into grief and dealing with death and also learning from death brought me to this place of really witnessing these clients of mine, the new ones coming in, the old ones leaving, and witnessing them taking their lives by by their hands, like really going after what it is that they want, no matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter how much they weren't sure that they could even do this, and getting past their fears and taking the steps to create their reality. So I actually wrote an email about this where I was writing and saying, also in the same 5-day period that 2 people died, what happened was 2 people told me, "I'm gonna do your mastermind next year," which I've heard from many people over the years. But this time something was different because I had just been witnessing these deaths in my life and processing through my own grief of my own losses over the years and witnessing my clients having their whole entire lives transformed in just 12 months. And then witnessing a new group coming in who's like, yes, I'm here for this. I am committed. I'm here to go for it, even if I'm scared and uncomfortable and don't want to pay for this. It's like they're out to create their lives. They're being engaged in the creation of their reality and their own experience and going after what they want. And this email I wrote about was about the fact that I also heard people say, you know what, I'll do it next year. And it really made me wonder, is there going to be a next year? How will I know if there even is a next year? We never know if there's going to be a next moment. And this world that we're living in always feels so uncertain, right? Like, I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels like that energy that's happening right now on the planet. There's so much grief. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, we just witnessed this Pluto transit, which I think stirred up a lot of energy around like, wow, there's big changes happening and it's very uncomfortable. And why are people putting off anything for later or for next year? Like, why, if you're called to join a mastermind program and take steps to create your reality and create your business, why would you wait a year? And then how many years have you been saying that you're going to get help? This is something I hear all the time. And I know because I did it myself many years ago. So many people say, you know what? I'm going to start that next year. I'm going to take the steps next year. I'm going to wait until I have this or this, or I'm going to wait until this is done. Or, you know what? Something came up and let me do it next year. Let me do it the year after or later on. Here's the thing, something will always come up. It's called being human. You will always have challenges come up and kids and family and births and deaths and moving and bills, and I mean it's life. You will always have something that comes up. And there is a way to work with what comes up and still keep going with your own life and going forward with your own dreams. There is still a way to handle what's coming up and being with what is and doing what you need to do and also co-creating your reality. Something that's interesting, I've always looked towards death as a teacher, and I've been pretty blessed to be a very engaged creator of my life for as long as I can remember. I really, my first conscious memories of co creating my reality and like envisioning my future and actually taking steps towards it. My first visions of this was when I was quite young, like maybe younger than a teenager. I started getting a little bit more engaged and serious about creating my reality as a teenager. I didn't know what this means. Those words didn't exist for me, but I knew about things that I felt like I wanted and then going after them. And thankfully, I've just always been really good at doing this. It doesn't mean I've succeeded in everything. It just means that I gave it a try. I went after it. And most of the cases, I've made them happen. Doesn't mean I was a multimillionaire just because I've started 3 businesses. It means that I went after them. I did it. I learned. I took the steps. I was engaged in creating my life. And what's interesting is when I taught this class in my own community where I live a few weeks ago, that was about manifesting and creating your goals and going after what you wanted for the year and making a plan and like speaking it into reality. What I found interesting is how many people don't do this on a regular basis. And I was actually a little surprised. Many of them have their own businesses or healers and entrepreneurs, and they're like, wow, I've never actually gone after a particular number or a goal or um, hoping to do anything. I've just kind of like gone with it. And then some other people are like, oh, I've always wanted to do this, but I've never actually like gone after it. And so it really made me wonder, like, well, wait, how are you living? So you're just kind of letting the wind take you, which there's nothing wrong with that. And um being almost kind of like a spectator to your own life, like sitting back and saying like, "Oh, this is happening and this is happening and this is happening." But what about actually having it created how you want it? Like, what about being engaged and going after it and doing it now and really being in the present moment, that life happens in the now? Life is not later. Life is not next year. And life is not even tomorrow. Life is today. So I was telling them about, in this workshop I did, I was telling them about this dance of being in the visioning of your future, of what it is you want to call in and what it is you're creating, and also staying in the present moment. It is a constant dance. It's not all one and it's not all the other. But grief and death and destruction and despair and all the kind of negative things you see in the world that you don't like, all of those can be teachers. You can just let them upset you and be sad. And yes, of course, I feel the grief of this world all the time. It's been a huge part of my journey. And thankfully, I've learned how to process through it and not bypass it, but to actually work with it and to see it as a great teacher, and also bring it, use the grief and work with the grief to bring me to a state of seeing how beautiful the hardest pain of utter grief and just death and destruction can be, to actually feel it fully, to then have me go and experience the opposite and the polarity of that feeling, and be in the joy, be in the fulfillment of being of service to other, be in my heart, and to witness the beauty and the reverence for everything around us in this magical world. And this is where I encourage you to stop and really look at your life and look at what it is that you want and what it is that you've been saying that you're going to put off till later. How long have you been wanting to grow your business? How long have you been plateauing at the same point in your business? How long have you been wanting to even get started and like take some first steps? Or maybe you're misaligned and maybe there's something wanting to be birthed through you. A lot of people inside of my new group mastermind cohort right now are actually there to birth something new through them and through their business. So a lot of them actually have established businesses, and now they know that something in them is changing because they're changing. Something in them wants to come through. They're here to expand into the next level of their service and their business and their leadership and who they be in the world. And so this is what I have been witnessing in my reality the last couple weeks, watching this incredible group of my 2023 mastermind cohort on their way out. It's like watching, it's kind of like watching children go off to school for the first time. It's like, okay, great. Now I've witnessed your amazing transformation. You are braver than you've been before. And now you get to go out there and be a leader in the world. And it's so exciting. And this is why I cry at every last call. It's like I have so much love for their courage and their passion and their resilience as an entrepreneur, because that's what it takes. It really isn't always easy. It can bring up so much of your stuff. It can be hard when things are not going your way. And this is why having support to learn how to work through these hard times and the great times in entrepreneurship is so important. So I get to witness this group on their way out, and I get to witness this new group coming in, like ready to take the reins and create their reality. And then I also got to witness the end, the death, the grief, the pain, the loss. And then I got to witness people telling themselves and telling me, you know what, I'm going to do that next year. And it's very interesting. I look at the ceremony of life of my reality to constantly be my teacher. And it's interesting to see that I've had these polarity experiences over the last few weeks of being brought back to the grief of losing my own father and dealing with death and hearing some of these stories that my friend was going through. and like really feeling the loss. And then of course there's so much collective grief as well. And to witness people like just kind of writing themselves off, saying like, oh, maybe later, maybe later, maybe later. And here's the thing. Everybody has their reasons, and of course some are definitely valid. And what this is about is just encouraging you to see where maybe there's genuine, like, I can't do it this year. And then there's also that part of you that's like, oh, I'm just procrastinating or putting this off because there's never going to be a right time. That's the reality of life. There's never a right time. You're never going to have more time or more money or less problems or less challenges or less to do or, like family, yourself, training, like whatever it is you have going on, there's always going to be something. So it's really up to you to create your reality. You can create space for anything you want. Someone said this to me once many years ago, and I thought it was some of the best piece of advice ever. It's like, okay, you're about to grow a business, and if you want to grow it, you have to actually give it some time, attention, and space. It's like if you wanted to fall in love or you go on dates, but then you actually have no time and space to even say yes and go on a date, then how are you going to really be able to create this relationship that you truly want? It's kind of the same thing in business. Like you have to actually say to yourself, well, if I want to make more money in my business and I want to get more clients or I want to add this new offering or I want to up level my leadership, are you actually giving it that care and attention and time that it actually wants and it needs in order to grow? It's not just going to do it on its own. It's like, I always say, it's kind of like having a baby or you're raising a child. You can't just like let it go and that's it, at the age of 2. You have to give it some attention, feed it, care for it, make sure it stays safe. And it's the same thing with your business. You don't just get a new puppy and that's that. You have to take care of it. And it's the same exact thing with your business. So please, I encourage you to look into anybody that who has died the last year or 2 years, and I'm sure there's been someone because it's the reality of the world we're in, or look at the war that you don't like that's going on, or multiple wars, by the way, not just one, and ask yourself, what is it that you're putting off and why? And could you actually give space to those dreams that you're putting aside because life happens now? Life is not tomorrow. Life is not next year. Life is not in the future. Life is actually happening to you right now. And you have no idea how long it's going to last, when it's going to be taken away, what's going to happen. And so, what is it that you're putting aside for later that you could actually just be taking little steps to do now? This is what has been alive in my field the last few weeks. And I hope this inspired you in some way to look at the beautiful teacher that we have that is death and grief and loss and use it to make your world much more magical and more beautiful and more joy filled and more fulfilling and fulfill your full potential as a human embodied here on earth at this amazing intense time in human history.